In the past year, so many parents have become online teachers in their own right by doing distance learning, trying to teach their kids at home and juggle everything that entails. But today, I'm actually interviewing a real teacher who teaches online and has for the last 12 years. But not only that, she also is a working mom. She also has a side business with a network marketing company and has a lot of insight on that and how to balance all of that. Plus, we have a really great conversation about how she met her husband in Haiti, and he is from Haiti, and how the whole challenge of moving from Haiti to Minnesota and balancing that on top of everything else. It's an amazing story and just a great conversation with an amazing woman. Glue. It's messy, it's sticky, it gets everywhere, but it's also really useful. Just like the glue that we need to put together the pieces of our life as busy working moms. We have after-school activities, we have homework, we have cleaning, we have laundry, and, we want to spend time with our kids as well in the process and maybe even have some time for ourselves. This podcast is for the busy moms out there who are balancing work, life, and everything in between, and we all know that in between encompasses a lot of things. If you're a mom who wants to do the best in all areas of life but still have time for yourself, this podcast is for you. I love to interview other moms and find out what works for them, get ideas from them, get inspired by them, and learn, we're all in this together. But I also like to share my own tips, tricks, struggles, triumphs, and share it all with you. So grab a load of laundry, lock yourself in the bathroom, go for a walk, do whatever you got to do. But I am just so glad you're here. Hey, Glue Sticks. I hope you are having an amazing week. Today's guest is somebody I have followed for a few years. She is on Instagram. She is an online teacher teaching Algebra 2 at an online school. And she also has a side business with a network marketing company, so she is a health and fitness coach. She has 2 children. Her name is Ashlee Francois, and I absolutely love talking to her. Her Instagram has captivated me for quite some time. She just ties her faith and her mission in life to her health and fitness journey, and she weaves it all together and inspires other moms and women through her Instagram and through her business. And it's just such a beautiful way to go about it. She has a really unique perspective on network marketing. And I know a lot of people who are against network marketing, but she definitely does it in a very tasteful, beautiful way and a very inspirational way. And I absolutely loved talking to her. I don't want to waste a lot of time, so let's get into it. We have so much to learn and enjoy about this conversation. Hey, Ashlee, I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here, actually.
Thank you. Yeah, I followed you for a while, and I just, there's so much I want to ask you. So let's just start. I'm sure a lot of my audience doesn't know you. I know you a lot through Minnesota Connection. So I would love if you would just share a little bit about your family, ages, and what you do.
Yeah. I am a wife to Claudia. He is Haitian. We actually met in Haiti in 2009 when I was on a mission trip there, and got married in 2012. And we have 2 children. We have Leah. She is 6.5 and in first grade, and Emerson is 4. He just turned 4. I am a teacher for Minnesota Connections Academy. It's an online high school, so I teach high school math. I've actually taught virtually. I know it's a new thing this year, but I've taught virtually for 12 years. So it's something that I'm quite used to. And then I also am a health and fitness coach on the side as well, just as a way to encourage women.
Okay, very cool. Can you walk us through a little bit? I'm a former teacher, English teacher, so that I think is so cool to know that you have been doing this whole online teaching thing for a while. Have you always, did you straight out of college do the virtual teaching, or can you walk us through kind of how that started?
Yeah. So I actually went to school in Minnesota at Northwestern University, it's called now. And right away moved to Florida. Just needed to move, I guess, or do something bold and different. And I taught at a private Christian school for 4 years and coached basketball, coached track, and did all the things. And I loved the classroom. I loved my connections with students. But what I really struggled with as a teacher was I had so much limited time, and it felt like I was helping, not giving enough time to the kids that needed it and giving too much time to the kids that didn't, or discipline issues. And I had this student, she would come every morning early so we could rework the lesson that we had learned the day before.
Okay.
She decides to go do this virtual school thing. At that time, that was 2008. So I was like, what is
Okay.
virtual
Yeah,
school?
that
Like
was
thinking
probably very
like,
beginning.
what is this? And it can't be real. But she was getting an A. And me having like, I barely struggled to get her to like a C. And that was with me spending
Right.
so much time with her. Like, what is going on? So I just started researching it and on a whim applied. And at that same time, ironically, was when I started getting involved with Haiti. And I um, knew God was calling to me something different, but I was not ready to move to Haiti at that point. And so
Okay.
this was a way that I could teach what I loved and then still be able to travel and do mission work. And so that was
Okay.
kind of how it
So
morphed.
okay. So you and were you with a different school then at that time for your first like virtual teaching?
Yeah, my first virtual teaching position was at Florida Virtual School. It's the biggest virtual academy in the nation. And it was one of the first. It started in 1997.
Okay.
Um, and it was very different. I taught at, it's called a part-time program, and
Okay.
Florida requires their students to take an online class at this point.
Oh,
So
okay.
a lot of our students were only taking one or two classes virtually. They were doing it on
Okay.
top of their other classes. So it was a little bit, a lot different structure than what I do now, but the
Sure.
concept is
Okay.
still kind of the same. Yeah.
Okay. And I will definitely that even open up more questions for you about virtual teaching, online teaching. But before we get to that, you have such an interesting story of how you, and I don't even know the full story, so I'm excited to learn more, but about how you met your husband and that whole story. Could you, in a nutshell, kind of walk us through that? Because it's so cool.
Yeah. Um, and honestly, I think it starts back to when I graduated college.
Okay.
My parents are amazing and wonderful, but I felt like I just totally depended on them for everything. I could call and they would help me, and that was awesome. But I am a person that loves independence. And so I wanted to kind of be on my own, but I was not ready to like fully be on my own. So my grandmother lived in Punta Gorda, Florida, which was like 30 minutes away from where I moved. So I was like away, but I had someone like that I
Right.
could kind of be by.
Sure.
Well, that kind of started that journey. And then my parents started getting involved in Haiti, and they were like, you have to come look at this school. And so I started researching what Haiti looks like in terms of education, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
Like the requirements for teachers are that you just have to have completed the level above what you're teaching.
Okay.
So
Wow.
you teaching elementary, you just have to have completed it. So
Okay.
I really wanted to help train teachers. And so the first step though was I needed to go and see what I was getting into. And on that first trip is when I met Claudie. And that was in 2009. And I mean, he was just our driver and translator, and there was not much to that. But then I
Okay.
started going every other month. And every other
Okay.
month, he was my driver and translator. And so you spent a lot of time getting or with that person. And
Sure.
so we spent a lot of time together. And probably a year into it, he was like, I want to marry you. I want to date you. And at this point, I had a very closed mindset to any international, not like racial necessarily,
Right.
but more international marriage.
Right.
I was worried that he was only after me because I was an American and he wanted to come to
Sure.
the United States and all of that. So I was very closed off, and I told him that. It's like, I will never marry you. And that has haunted me many times in our
Oh,
marriage.
that's
But
funny.
same thing. My brother came down on the trip and he told my brother, I'm going to marry your sister. My brother laughed at him, all the things. Well, then after a year and a half of traveling back and forth, I moved to Haiti. It was 2 hours away from where he lived. But at
Okay.
this point, I'd spent so much time with him. So he became my like best friend. Even though he was 2 hours away, it was like someone that I knew that was familiar to me,
Right.
even though I had moved to a different location. And at that point, I was very much in love with him, but very still afraid
Yeah.
of the relation, like not him, but the like idea of the
The,
relationship.
the logistics and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say finally I just it was God's working on my heart. Like there's no other way to explain it, but it just came down to like I was willing to live here for the rest of my life. Like I was willing to live in Haiti for the rest of my life, whatever that looked like. Why was I like saying that I couldn't be married to a Haitian? Like if I'm wanting to serve in this country, like why can I not marry him? And I knew my parents had liked him because they knew him. I didn't know what they would think of me like dating him. That's a whole other
Right.
story, right?
Right.
But at that point, I was so in love. I think it just came to the point of, I guess we'll go with whatever happens after.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So then how did you get back not only to the United States then, but to Minnesota? Because that I'm sure for him was like a
Oh
huge
my word.
transition.
Yeah. So we were married in 2012 and we still lived in Haiti for that a whole year, a little over a year after we got married. Um, we were in the visa application. We knew we wanted to move back to the States for him to go to college. That would
Okay.
just be the easier option. Our initial plan, and I've learned to never do more than like a year or two plan, just because
Right.
life at this point. But our initial plan was that after he'd go to school, he'd get a degree, we'd get kind of back up on our feet again, and then we'd move back to Haiti. Um, we're still in Minnesota and
Right.
not in Haiti, but we moved to Minnesota just because we needed a house, and my parents
Okay.
offered to let us live with them, and he could go to school, and that way we had financial help.
Okay.
That's how
Gotcha.
it started.
And so you were teaching online throughout this whole process, correct?
I took a year and a half off.
Okay. Okay.
So I did teach online some from Haiti, but
Okay.
for a chunk of it, I did not.
Okay. And so then you moved back up here, you were married, and then how long after that did you have your daughter? A
A
few
year.
years. Oh, a year. Oh, wow. Okay.
Hmm. Um, Not highly recommended
Yeah.
for you to do an international move and have a baby in a year, but
Okay.
that was
And
what
then
we
is
did.
that when you got connected with the Minnesota school you're
No,
with now? Okay.
I taught for Florida Virtual School until 3 years ago. Well, two and a
Okay.
half years ago.
Okay.
Um, I got a call on a random Tuesday afternoon saying that I either needed to move back to Florida or I would be done with my job
Oh,
after it
wow.
was like there was a deadline. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you just decided to switch at that point?
Yeah, I mean, we actually really considered moving back to Florida at that point. We had just bought in our house and didn't really want to sell, but
Right.
um he's from Haiti, so the idea of living in Florida did sound nice. It's just
Right.
then we're not by family, and we went through the
Right.
whole thing, and I was able to find Connections Academy, which I'm very happy with, and so,
Okay.
um, yeah, God
That's
provided.
awesome. And so does he still have a lot of family back in Haiti? And how do you guys navigate that?
Yeah, his mom lives in Haiti still, and then he is one of 12,
Okay. Wow.
and that he's the only one in the United States. We have a
Okay.
niece that lives here. She lives in Miami,
Okay.
but otherwise, he most of his siblings are in Haiti. He does have a couple that are in Ecuador.
Okay. And then sorry, this whole thing is
No,
so interesting to me.
yeah,
We're a biracial marriage,
yeah,
but my his parents were born in Laos, but he was born here. So it's,
a little bit
he's
different.
just a normal Minnesotan, he's Asian, but to me, he's just,
Yeah.
we grew up pretty much in a lot of the same ways, same schools and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I think
So
every marriage is going to have a little bit of differences, no matter if
that's
you're
true. For true. That's so true. Yeah. And, and the racial thing, I mean, I'm not going to get into that too much because there's so much other stuff I want to ask you, but how was that transition for him then? Like moving somewhere totally new and finding a job and all of that kind of stuff, because he was driver translator there. Do you mind sharing what he does now?
No, he is a mechanic. He actually works
Okay.
for my dad and brother as a diesel
Oh, okay.
mechanic on our family farm. So
Oh, perfect.
the job situation was an easy transition. Life transition was not so easy for the
Okay.
first year and a half, 2 years. Um, I mean, and I just was having a conversation with somebody about this too, that was interested with somebody that would be an interracial relationship. And you're putting somebody in a place where they were like, he was a leader in his country and he was
Right.
like the go-to man for the organization that he worked for. And now all of a sudden he knows nothing about our financial situation, like how to do
Right.
finances in a country. He knows, I mean, there's so much. And
Yeah,
now
I
he's
can't even
totally
imagine.
dependent on you as a wife.
Right.
And he was in school, so he wasn't making a lot of money. So I was primarily the like income person, and
Right. Right.
it was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a lot for a new marriage. It's already can, once you kind of get over the honeymoon phase and especially once kids come along.
Yeah.
Why don't you walk us through a little bit about, you said now you don't look too far into the future because especially what 2020 showed us, like you just never know what's coming.
Yeah.
But when you were younger and you were thinking about becoming a mom, did you always see yourself working, or what was your vision kind of like before having kids?
I the thought never crossed my mind that I wouldn't work.
Okay.
And I think that's because I was raised by a working mom. My mom was the
Mhm.
head of the OR, and that was what was like my aunt worked, everybody in my
Right.
family, like that was what we knew. And
Right.
that's what I thought. I never envisioned. In fact, I never thought I'd be a teacher. I thought I'd be like a business exec or something
Right.
like that. Um, but yeah, the thought never crossed my mind of not working.
And then talk to us about your coaching business and how long ago that came to be and kind of how that came to be and on top of
Yeah,
everything else.
I know. And it's funny that you say on top of everything else, because I was thinking about that earlier. Is that's one of my tips to people is as a working mom, I think sometimes we hear it now, especially like women, you can do it all and you can have it all. And I do
Right.
not think that. And I
Yeah.
don't do coaching for that reason, and I don't work for that reason. It's just kind of what God laid on my heart. And that was 6 years ago after having Leah, after having her first. I needed something physically for me that was different. I've
Mhm.
always ran, but I didn't know anything about how to take care of my body outside of running. And I needed something else. And so I started just with the intention of working out, and I knew I could work out because I had always ran. So I knew how to fit
Okay.
that in. Um, but I had a lot of new mom friends that couldn't figure out how to find 30 minutes a day
Right.
to take time for themselves. And so I thought, well, maybe I could just encourage some friends to
Right.
do it with me and encourage them. And that's really how it started. But what I found in that is there was so much ministry. And I had just come
Yeah.
off of a mission field. And so now I was living in my parents' basement, working full time. My husband was in school and I was a new mom. And like I had nothing for myself. Like I wasn't serving. Like there was
Right.
part of me that felt like something was missing. And
Mhm.
coaching filled that role. Like, so for me, yes, health and fitness, I want to encourage every woman, every man to be on a health and fitness journey.
Right.
But it's also a ministry to me. Like I get
Right.
to serve women and something that they can connect to, but I can also tie them to the spiritual sense
Right.
of
And
it.
I would highly encourage everybody to find you on Instagram, and I'll have all that in the show notes. But I love your Instagram stories. They're
Oh,
always so inspirational, and you're tying everything to the word, and you do it in such like a beautiful, authentic way where I know a lot of like business owners and network marketers will kind of like attack you with this is the product and that kind of thing. Do you want to kind
Mhm.
of talk to us about why you decided to do it that way, or how maybe your view is a little bit different about how that all goes?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it was my hesitation of coaching, like being a coach in general wasn't like leading people in health and fitness, but was more the network marketing
Right.
side. Like, I don't want to send all these messages to people
Right.
and like, I don't know. I mean, there's an element to me inviting people personally because they watch and they're afraid,
Right.
right? So like they need the invite. They need to know they're invited. But
Right.
I don't want to be the person that's in your inbox where that's the first thing you hear from me. And
Right.
I would never tell anyone to do that. In fact, I get that I get invited to things all the time. And I'm
Oh,
like,
that's
you need
funny.
to stop doing this because you
Right.
are ruining network marketing for the rest of us. Like it doesn't
Right.
have to be this way. um, we can do it in a way that's, yeah, I'm sharing my journey and people are encouraged by it, and let's invite them to do it with us. And if they have something else, I am here to encourage women on a health and fitness journey and to love the Lord. And if that just means they watch my Instagram, that's okay with me. I'm completing what God has called me to,
Right.
and
No, that's
just
awesome.
trusting in fact, I almost quit this year. We were just talking about this
Oh,
the other night.
really?
I almost quit this year, just with some of the ebbs and flows of probably COVID, and then just
Right.
network marketing can be very up and down.
Right.
And I was just really struggling, but I like out of thin air, 10 people like reached out to me, and I just like it was that confirmation that I knew that God was telling me this is what you're called to do and to keep
Right.
going with it. And it doesn't have to
Wow.
be big. Like I
Right.
think so many people like you hear the stories of the girl that became a millionaire at 25.
Right.
Well, it doesn't have to be that.
Right. And not, yeah, it's not everybody's story. And do we actually, like, I think people, that sounds so nice, but is that really what you want? You know, when you really think about it, if you just all of a sudden at 25 are a millionaire, I don't think I would have done good things with it at that
I would
point.
not at 25.
And you know, I think the best things in life happen slowly and over time. And you know, I think what you've created really is a ministry. Like that's how I've seen it. I think you've woven in your faith, and I can just see your heart through what you share online. And I think it's really awesome. And I'm glad you didn't quit. I'm hopefully you would have stayed on Instagram anyway. But
Well, yeah.
um have you always seen it as like a business? Because I know you definitely, I can see like you take the
Hmm.
time, you put the time in, like you're strategic in that way. I wouldn't say I look at you like you're strategic to
Right.
like pinpoint people and target them and lasso them in, but like I see
Right.
like you've really spent the time on it. Have you always been really thoughtful like that about it, or did that kind of take time to really put the pedal to the metal? I don't know the right phrasing, but
Yeah.
like to, you know what I mean?
I think it came out of a necessity for myself and just needing to have systems in place as a
Okay,
working mom on top of it and a
sure.
mom and a wife. And what was happening, and I think why a lot of people quit businesses of any kind,
Yeah.
is you if you're putting in if you're not if you don't have systems in place and you don't aren't strategic, you're putting in all these
A
extra
lot.
hours because of doing it
Yes.
on the fly.
Yep.
And I mean, you're a content creator too. If you're doing everything on the fly, you're spending probably twice as much time.
Right.
And I was always on my phone then. And
Right.
I mean, my kids were little, so it didn't matter as much. But as I got older, it's like, I don't want them to see me on my phone
Right.
95% of the time.
For
I want to
sure.
have time with my husband. And so, what I learned is if I was better at creating a system. Sundays are my day of
Okay.
2 hours during nap time of organizing my week in terms of, like, our family schedule and also my
Right.
business schedule. It helped me, but what I also found is once I started doing it, it helped my business. I was creating content that made sense and that was helpful for people because
Right.
it was purposeful and it wasn't just, like, what I felt in the moment per
Right.
se.
Right. That makes
Um
sense. Yeah. And can you walk us through then? I know because you have actual hours, correct? For it,
Yes.
maybe walk us
Mhm.
through that first. Cause I think, people, especially now, like a lot of us have had a taste of our own version of what whatever school we're going to has for their, kind of fly by the seat of
Yeah,
your pants that they had to figure out, which my school, they've done an amazing job. I
right.
don't want to diss teachers because I can't even imagine what they've gone through the past year. But what is your school like? What does it actually look like on the teacher end for you?
Right. So it's a little bit different. And that's where I feel so bad for teachers right now because it's like they're trying to come up with a synchronous model of
Right.
online
Yeah.
learning. And that's nearly impossible without putting
Yeah.
in like being on Zoom all day,
Yeah.
which makes everyone exhausted. And so our system's built to be asynchronous, right? Kids can come on at any time that they want to come on and learn the material.
Okay.
Now we do have synchronous lessons offered, and I teach at a high school level. So, like at an elementary level, that's a little bit more offered
Sure.
than what we do at a high school level. Just
Okay.
a lot of my students work full time, and
Oh, wow.
um, yeah, they do different
That makes
things.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, or some of them are like we have an Olympic gymnast or things like that, and so
Wow. Cool.
um, I mean, I yeah, I work a traditional usually 8 I work usually 9 to 5 is the hours that
Okay.
I have picked. Teachers can pick anywhere from 7 to 3, anywhere in that range, like starting
Okay.
between 7 and 9 and ending between 3 and 5.
Okay.
And then we get an hour lunch break, which can
Okay.
also be flexed, which is why I'm here now.
Sure. Okay.
Um, and then we have scheduled lessons where I am live. I am in front of a camera. I
Okay.
am teaching a couple days a week is all I do of that. And then from
Okay.
there, it's primarily one-on-one work. I mentioned earlier that I was so frustrated with the classroom setting where you got very little time one-on-one. Well, now
Right.
90% of my time is one-on-one support for a
Okay.
student.
And how
Um,
much of that is like video, or is it mostly like answering questions or?
Um, very little is video,
Okay.
because our course is actually video based. So it's
Oh,
already
okay.
pre
Oh, cool.
yes. So
That's nice.
like yeah. So they watch a video first of the content which they like
Sure.
because they can pause it, go back and all of that.
Right.
So usually ours is more like, I didn't get this problem right. Can you help me work through it? So it's
Right.
almost more of like a flipped model of a classroom where they've already done the lesson and they're coming in
Right.
for help with a certain topic.
Right. That is really cool. Like my teacher brain is
There
like,
is where
that makes so much sense. Like, you could just have a thing running that does the main lessons, but then you come in to actually help everybody understand it
so
in
there's
whatever way that
some
works.
yeah, and there's some students that I talk to very little. Like they need
Okay.
very little support outside of the fact that they watched my video and they went through the homework problems.
Right.
Like they really just need me to be their encourager and to know who I am so they're feel free to ask a question. And there's some
Right.
students that I have to like, okay, today we're going to do this lesson. And
Right.
we walk through like I mean, I teach algebra too, so it's a little bit harder of content, but we
Right.
have to
Right.
walk through a lot of it together. So,
And so you're on all the videos for, is that,
no.
so that's
Mm-mm.
okay, so that's separate, and then you do your own like live teaching a couple days a week and then one-on-one, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
We actually just redid our videos this year, and so we paired them up, partnered up with the other teachers
Okay.
that teach algebra too. So I'm on some of them, but not all of them.
Okay. Gotcha. So
Yeah.
that's so smart too. I mean, that makes so much sense. I'm just thinking of like all the lessons, like, cause teaching English and then the grading and how does grading and stuff work?
Yeah. A lot of our questions are auto graded um,
Okay.
for us, and so that's helpful. I mean, the English
Yeah. With
teachers obviously
math.
have
Yeah.
to
English.
grade
Yeah.
essays and things like that,
Papers.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we will like if it's a math problem, there's multi steps. So sometimes it's
Right.
like, okay, they can show me this, I'll give them partial credit and go back and
Sure.
enter it, even though it's a like multiple choice system. So,
Okay. Okay.
um,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Oh my goodness. That makes so much sense to me. I'm just like, maybe I need another
Maybe you could
job.
teach it.
Oh man. I mean, I miss a lot of teaching, but yeah, I don't miss, like you were talking about, like the behavior issues and that taking up, really, that's what's on your heart at the end of the day. It's not the kid who couldn't figure out the answer. It's like, how can I connect with this
Mhm.
child? And that really takes up a lot of time because I taught middle school, and I mean,
Oh, yeah.
there's no kids that need more love than middle schoolers. Like it's just such a transition time. And I'm like, English is amazing, but they don't care. They want,
They don't.
they have so much going on in their lives and figuring out who
When
they
that
are.
I mean, I teach algebra too. At this point of
Right.
math, it's like most kids don't necessarily need the level of math that I'm
Right.
teaching them to be successful in life, right? So a
Right.
lot of it to me is like that. We're having conversations way beyond algebra. It's
Right.
okay, what's going on in your life? How can we get you through this? And
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sure like all kinds of kids, like you were saying, use online school for, some kids were probably bullied at traditional schools. So now they're, so I
a
think,
lot.
that in and of itself, I think teaching, of course, is a ministry in and of itself, but it's cool how you can still translate that in an online
Yes.
setting. I think that's so cool. And then how do you find, like you were talking about Sundays being like a work day for you or
Mhm.
partially a work day during nap. How else do you fit in your coaching business throughout the week?
Right.
Like pockets of time? How do you do that with a full-time job?
Yeah, so I primarily only do coaching work like 10, 15 hours a week.
Okay.
And I try to fully take Saturdays off. I try to
Okay.
be off of social media. And sometimes I'll slip that and be like, "Oh, we have this going on Saturday, so I'll do that Sunday." But
Right.
like, I try to take a day off of where I'm not on my phone. I'm not working my business. I'm with my family, being engaged, and
Right.
so then that's like another thing, right? There's one more day of like where I'm not
Right.
teaching, where I could have been working my business, but that's more important than my business.
Right.
And so I'll work usually a couple days a week. I do it over lunch. I'll do an
Okay.
hour, 45 minutes to an hour. Um, and then usually when the kids go to bed, um, I'll do an hour a couple days a week. And that's just
Right.
something, I mean, it's income for our family. So I think my
Right.
husband's supportive of that because it does
Right.
help our
Right.
family. And I don't try to make it like the whole night, so we still get time
Sure.
together. And I
Okay.
think he kind of enjoys it because then he has a night to himself or an
Right. Oh,
hour
for
or two to
sure. Yeah.
himself too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
especially with kids, you need time to yourself too, even though you love your spouse. Like it's still another person to have to interact with.
yes,
Oh,
exactly. Yeah. So I think people have a misconception just because it's talked about that it's like we have to hustle and we have to be doing it
right,
all the time. And that's where I think if you're strategic and you're doing things that actually help your business and not like scrolling Instagram, that can be very easy
right,
to do.
right.
You can get a lot done that helps your business in 45 minutes to an hour a day.
That's so true. I'm very guilty of the
Well, I
mindless
think we
scroll. It's
all
it's
are
so
guilty
hard.
of
Like
the
I go on
mindless
there, oh, I'm
scroll.
gonna message this person, and then like not 45 minutes later, maybe some days, but like 10 minutes later, I'm like, I don't even know where I am or what's going on.
Right.
It's so addicting. I mean, they've proven that. Some people listening might say, I would love to have a side business, but I don't want to start something completely on my own. I found this network marketing business and it really aligns with me,
Hmm.
or I already am using the products or whatever. Do you have any tips or advice that you would give someone who is a working mom already about taking on something extra like that and how to kind of get started?
Yeah. So, well, first would be if you are married and you do have a family, communication with those people that it
Right.
also impacts is very important. So,
Yeah.
having the conversation with your spouse, like, look, and maybe it starts small. Like, a lot of times people start at like 5 hours a week. And so, what are these 5 hours and when can I fit them in? And when can I do this? And how can it work for
Right.
our family? Um, And so set that expectation so that they know. So it's not they're frustrated that you're on the phone for those 5
Right.
hours.
Right.
It's already been decided. And honestly, if you do the key producing activities and you get income, they will become a little bit more understanding
Right.
of you doing the time. But if you're on your phone
Right.
for 10 hours and not producing any income,
Right.
then there's going to be issues. So that would be the second thing is talk to whoever is well, join an upline person that you can connect with and
Okay.
you've seen proof that they're going to support you and that they're going to
Right.
have resources and that you connect with them on like you would want to go on a weekend trip with them.
Right.
Because if you
Okay.
don't have that connection, I think you lose some things along the way.
Right.
But then use I mean, they all will know and tell you what activities to do. So do those activities and
Right.
produce some income, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and then just being structured. I
Yeah.
I can't emphasize enough just that. If you're trying to work and be a mom and all of the things, I don't want to say you have to live by your planner all of the time because I mean you have to
Right.
be able to be willing to be available for people and
Right.
for things to come up. But
Right.
also if I plan, like I said, if I plan out 2 hours, if I take 2 hours out of my week to plan a post, then I don't have to spend 45 minutes trying to create it because I already know what I'm
Right.
talking about.
And then if something comes up, you actually know what you're shifting versus like, okay, I already was overwhelmed and now this came up and now everything's, moved around. No, just this one little thing. I can fit it in over here. I'm not stressed
Yes.
as stressed. I feel
Yes.
like I always run on a little level of stress all the time, but I don't
Well,
know.
I mean,
I feel like life with little kids, like it's just
it
for
never
me.
goes as planned, right? Like
Right. No,
last
no. And
night
I'm
we
very
had
type A.
last night we had a family meeting and my husband was supposed to be in and he had intentions to be and someone stopped by and it was like, now that I'm in this meeting with children,
Yep.
it's what it is. I
Yeah,
don't, yeah.
it never, no day is perfect, and that's okay. I mean, there's joy in that too. What would you say is your favorite part? So I would say like you have two pretty, not, I don't want to say uncommon, but I wouldn't say they're common either. So being a teacher is a pretty common thing people know about, but teaching online, I'd say is still fairly new. Like I don't meet a lot of people who teach online.
Right.
And then, having a successful network marketing business, I feel like a lot of people will start and then it kind of fizzles out or,
Hmm.
life kind of happens and so they quit or just don't really talk about it anymore. What would you say have been your favorite parts of, having both of these working together, working from home, doing things online? What has been your favorite part as like from a mom perspective, a working mom perspective?
So I think like being virtual teaching has been nice in that it is a little bit more flexible and if my kids are sick and I can
Right.
go and get them and I can still do my job. It might be a little
Okay.
bit distracted, but I don't have to
Right.
take a sick day necessarily,
Sure.
especially before school, like or daycare gets sick and you have to go get the
Right.
kids because they're sick and now you have
Right.
to try to figure that out and a lot of companies aren't great with that, but if you're teaching virtually, aside
Right.
from that hour that I'm live, it's fine if my
Right.
kids are kind of in the background.
Sure. That's awesome.
Um, so that part has been really nice. And just that I could shift my schedule, right? Like if I
Right.
wanted to take lunch at 1 this day instead of 11, I
Right.
can do kind of flex my days a little bit,
Right.
which is nice.
Yeah.
I can go to
Yeah.
an appointment if I need to go to an appointment and
Right.
um,
That's really
that
nice.
piece has been great. But then I still think the coaching thing for me has been more about my need to fill my cup. While I feel like
Hmm.
it's a ministry, it's also a community of women that I love and
Right.
the friendships. And so, um, while in its way, it's kind of weird, right? Because it's ministry and you're giving and you're helping people. Like you'd
Right.
feel like that was like always pouring out. It's poured in so much that I can't imagine not doing it really.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. I think like that's how I approached work life glue for so long. Like I was doing daycare full time, and for me too, it's a community. Like if I was just pouring out stuff but nobody ever talked to me, like I couldn't do it. Like it feels pointless. Like I want to actually interact with people, and it's so cool because online you can interact with so many people around the world and
Right.
really get your message out and meet people virtually and maybe in person eventually. I'm sure, with your business, you have met people in person that you never thought you would from all over the place.
Right. Yeah. And we have, on a normal year, we have yearly gatherings
Right.
and different things like that that are really so much fun and part of the business. That's amazing. But yeah, it's like we were talking about it last night in our team call. We have those every week just to
Okay.
kind of to train our newer coaches. But
Yeah.
like it kind of got all of us through the pandemic. Like
Right.
you have this community system that was already put into place that was virtual that
Right.
you didn't have to try to navigate when you no longer could see people.
Sure.
Um,
That's very true. Just keep those connections. And then
yeah.
what would you say has been like, what are some of the struggles of, your particular career and your business on the side? Like, what are some of the struggles that you would say are kind of unique to that?
The big struggle with teaching, as you know, is just you have those kids that just put a like hole in your heart and
Yeah.
you can't necessarily fix it. And unfortunately, in the online setting, you kind of said something earlier, and it was just a lot of bullied, which is a lot of our population, or
Okay.
a lot of mental health students that struggle
Yeah.
with mental health. And so we get a lot of those situations, and it's
Yeah.
really hard to close it. Um, down and not to think
Right.
about it and not to dwell on it when you're not with them physically either.
Sure.
And then on top of that, it's really hard not to work
Right.
15 hours a day because your
Sure.
computer's always in front of you. So there's
Right.
always questions or text messages or something coming in.
Right.
Um, and then, like coaching business in probably any network marketing or any small business, I would
Right.
say, is there's going to be somebody that says something negative.
Yep.
And there's gonna be somebody that unfriends you or,
Right.
um, even as like, I haven't said anything controversial, I can't think of
No.
when. I mean,
No.
ever, but it's like
Right.
there's still like, it still happens.
Right.
Um, and to not get yourself beat up over that. And
Right.
I think just I mean, every mom deals with mom guilt,
Yeah.
but I think as a working mom, the guilt is a little bit different in that you feel guilty for working
Right.
and enjoying it. Like
Yeah.
I
That's
find
true.
I find enjoyment in working, and some days I feel guilty that I like want to go to work and not be
Right.
with my children. If that makes like I see
No, that makes
people on
total
Instagram
sense.
like, oh, I love being with my children, and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I get to go to work today
Right.
and
No,
come
I hear
home with
you.
me.
Right.
Um, but then also being at work and feeling like guilty that you're like or taking a day off of work to be with your
Right.
children and then feeling guilty that you're not working. Like
Right.
it's
It's a
just
double-edged
that can
sword. Yeah.
we can just always I mean, every mom has
Yep.
to
No
get
matter what you
through the
choose.
guilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't be a stay-at-home mom and a full-time working mom and and be with your kids all the time and like no matter what you choose there's trade-offs and you just have to hope that you're making the best choice for your kids and for yourself and they make it through and I think no matter what you choose like all of our kids are learning something valuable
Yeah.
from what we're doing. If we're staying at home, they're seeing, certain things from us. If we're working, they're seeing certain things from us. And what we don't teach them, other people can teach them too. Like you're not the
Yeah.
only role model in their life, thankfully. Like I try my best, but like I'm glad there's other women out there who can kind of show what a good woman is. Like there's so
Right.
many different paths that we can take, and I think that's helpful to have them, to have people in their lives who can also show them that. But I don't want to end this without asking you about working out, because that's still, I follow you, and I still am one of those moms. I mean, granted, I always use the baby as an excuse, but she's almost 6 months. So I'm like, probably not a great excuse at this point anymore. But what tips would you give to a busy mom, a busy working mom about fitting in exercise?
It's about sacrifice a little bit. Like something has to give, right?
Yeah.
So I can't, if I want to do these things that I felt called to do, then I probably don't get to watch TV for an hour and a half every
Right.
night. Like there's something that's I can't do. So I do have to, you do have to give up some. But
Right.
as far as like working out, like not even building a business, if you're just a working
Yep.
mom wanting to fit in time to work out, I do encourage people to get up before their families.
Mhm.
And that's hard. And I know it's hard as a
Yeah.
mom of littles. And I can't tell you how many times it's like, especially when I was first starting and you'd set the alarm for 5:30 and sure enough, they'd be up with you. And here
Oh,
you were
yeah.
trying to like
Yep.
do it on your own.
Yep.
Um, but I just, first of all, I wouldn't let that, you can't let that be your excuse to not do it then. So
Right.
you're up and they're up with you. Put the iPad on. They will be
Right.
okay. Put the TV on, whatever it is. Give them a
Right.
bowl of cereal. For a while when Leah was like at that age where they're like into everything, it's like I
Yes.
would put her in her high chair, put the movie on, and then give her like food so that I
Yeah.
could get something done without having to worry about
Right.
where she was. But I mean, if you look back on, if I were to show you like photos of my like first starting out journey, there was a lot of days my kids worked out with me,
Okay.
just because that's how it happened. Like they'd wake up
Right.
because they'd hear mom awake and I just did it. And now they primarily, like this morning, Emerson was up and I just said, Mommy's going to work out now. And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. It
it's
becomes
just a
normal for them
it's
eventually.
a normal routine for you, and especially with, like, a 6-month-old, when they start crawling, they'll crawl all over you for the first
Right.
little while, and
Right.
you have to come to a place with, like, "Okay, maybe I'm not getting in as great of a workout as
Right.
I want to, but it's me showing up for habit that I really want to
Right.
build."
Right. And when I'm trying to motivate myself to do workouts, for so long, I was like, I have to do it when my kids are asleep because otherwise I'm sacrificing time with them. Cause I was getting up at 4 and I still do to work on my business. So I'm like, well, I'm not getting up at 3 to work out,
Right.
so
Yeah, that would be
and for me, like the end of the day, I just cannot motivate myself at that point. I am
agreed.
just done. And so I'm like, you know what? What's so wrong with them seeing me work out? Like, am I really sacrificing time or are they seeing something that's a good thing to see? Like a mom taking care of herself. I care about my body. Like, this is what healthy people do. So that's still like the plan for me is to still work out when they are up.
I actually I actually would recommend that to most moms with kids that nap is to not work out while they nap, to work out with
Right.
them awake. First of all, kids can have 30 minutes where you're not like
Right.
with them
Yes.
all that's I
Right.
mean, where
That's
you're
true.
like they have a little bit independent play is
Right.
okay. Or involve them. Like some
Right.
days they come and work out with me, some days they don't. I don't obviously make them work. That would be kind of
Right. Yeah.
crazy, but they sometimes want to say, "Can we work out with you?" Sure, you can come
Right.
down here. But that way, your nap time still can be used for
Right.
the things you were wanting that to be used
Right.
for,
Yeah.
and a
Because
little
that's
break
very
for you.
precious. But yeah,
It
and I
is.
mean, some women, every woman, different things work well for her and trying out different things to fit it in. And every working mom, like, there's so many ways to be a working mom these days. Like,
Yeah.
everybody's schedule's so different. But I think for me, like if somebody out there is like me and they're like, well, I already am like every minute while they're asleep is already accounted for, so do it when they're awake. Like
Mhm.
just start small and eventually, I'm preaching to people and I'm not walking the walk right now, but I'm getting there. I'm going to try to heal my diastasis recti because
Yes.
really bad. And then I'm hoping to like do a little bit more vigorous stuff. And hopefully eventually it'll be nice out again and we can do stuff outside.
And if you're struggling with the habit, start with something that's like 15 minutes because that's
Right.
okay. I can probably fit 15 minutes in. And
Right.
I think what will happen, what I've seen happen, is you develop a joy for working out or miss
Right.
it anyways. Like
Right.
the way it makes you feel, like not
For
necessarily
sure.
the act of working out, but the way
Right.
what it produces. And
Right.
then you'll eventually find time for maybe 20 minutes and 25,
Right.
I
Yeah,
very
for
rarely
sure.
work out more than 30. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, an hour would be there's no way I could find like my husband, he goes to the gym and I think that's helpful for him to be away. I just don't want to like I don't want to be around other people. Like I'm already like
Right.
self-conscious. I'm like I want to be alone with my mom body and only me seeing it do what it does, you know. Maybe eventually, but I think too, like that for some women, that may be really helpful to actually leave and maybe there's
Go.
childcare
Hmm.
there or whatever. I don't know right now, but hopefully eventually. But for some, like they may not want that. Like I do the on demand stuff I have, and I've really loved that. And that's like in college, I was super into working out and I did workout videos because it's just, you really can't make a good
Easy.
excuse when
No.
it's right there. Especially nowadays, we've got our phones, we've got laptops, we've got iPads. Like there's really no way to not be able to find a workout in some way
Right.
in today's world. Okay, so every episode I like to ask my guest about what's one tip they do to survive? Like what's a mama survival tip that gets you through in some way that might be helpful for others?
So, a couple of things. Every night, I clean up all of the toys or help my kids, but I'll be honest, I primarily just do it because it doesn't get put in the
Yeah,
right place.
sure.
At my kids' age. And so I do that and I run the dishwasher, whether it's full or not full.
Right.
And I make sure my kitchen is clean and my like living room is clean. And that
Okay.
way the mornings, they can't get it as, we're not up that long before we're off and doing our things in the morning. So that
Right.
way it's like pretty much clean until we're done, home the next day.
Sure.
And then in the mornings, I unload the dishwasher and I throw in a load of laundry. And
Every day.
that, yeah, and it doesn't always get put away. I do a load,
Right.
but it doesn't always get put
Right.
away until the weekends, which is fine. But then at least it's not like I'm all laundry all weekend.
Sure.
Or I don't feel like, even if we have, and get help. I mean, if you're a working mom, get help. We
Right.
have a cleaning lady that comes, and so she cleans the like deep things, but that way my house isn't cluttered. Like I don't feel like
Right.
it's a mess,
Sure.
which stresses me out.
No, I hear you. Yeah, I do the same thing. I mean, not every day do I get everything put away, but I try because you just feel so much better when you're not being hit in the face with like clutter right when you wake up. I think it does something to your brain. And then what would you say is something in your life that you would say has earned the mama seal of approval for you, like a product, a service, an app, something like that?
Home food delivery.
Okay.
Home chef or what? There's all kinds of them now,
Yeah.
but any of them, especially if you're working mom.
Yeah.
Even we just do two of them a week, and just to have those 2 nights where I know I don't have to cook, I don't have to make sure things are prepped. I still kind of
Right.
have to cook because a lot of them you still have to
Right.
like throw it together, but it's
Right.
prepped and I don't have to think about it.
Right. You don't have to
It's there.
plan all the ingredients and all that.
It's a
Yeah.
little bit more expensive, but
Right.
like at some point we have to decide
Right.
if
Time versus
time
money.
or money, and
Yep. Yeah,
yeah,
we did one because during the pandemic, like I closed my daycare, but I was still so
right.
stressed and I was really pregnant and really sick. And so we ended up, I'm like, what could I take off my to-do list a little bit? And so we did one for quite a few months and it was just wonderful. And now that I've kind of
Got
figuring
your
things out a
routine.
little bit
Mhm.
more and I'm not pregnant and sick all the time, I feel like that just drained me so much, and feels good to have my body back a little bit and now be myself a little bit more. So I totally agree with you that those can be really helpful. And we have so many opportunities these days. Like that was never an option for our parents. And
No.
it's really cool. And I'm sure they're just going to get even better and more affordable and stuff as time goes on. So I think that's really cool. Well, any last words that you want to share, a message you want to share to busy working moms before we go?
Yeah, just you can't do it all. The message I'm hearing over and over is you can do it all if you want to and if you work hard, and that's a
Right,
lie. And you need to really fight hard to not believe that is true, because
right,
you will end up failing over and over again. We are not
right,
created to do it all. Like the Bible says, we can't do it all. Like we all are
right,
given different gifts. And so um, be okay with letting some of that go, like letting that perfection go. And then don't be afraid to ask people for help. Like
yeah,
you are like, okay, I don't, there's men are wonderful, but my husband goes to work. He doesn't think
right,
about the kids' lunchbox. What did they get their homework in their bag? He does a lot of things, but he doesn't like
right.
women have all these thoughts going through their head all day
The
long
mental
that we
load.
a
Yes,
mental load. And it's okay for you to ask people for help. Like
right,
you don't have to do it all, and you're never going to be able to have everything you ever wanted.
right, right.
I don't
It's just
know.
true. Yeah, no, it's so true. And I think that can be toxic to believe. And then you constantly, the world we live in of comparison, oh, she's doing this and she's doing that. And well, none of them are one person. You know what I mean? They have their
Right.
different strengths, and we are the
Well, and
same
we're
way. Like,
seeing everybody's highlight reel
right.
on top of it.
Which isn't even fully true. Like, even like you and I, like we
Yeah.
try to be authentic, but I'm not going to show you my kid screaming or pooping in her underwear. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to
Or
show
me
that
yelling at
stuff.
them
Right.
because
Exactly. Like,
yeah,
I try to be authentic, but there is a place for privacy and keeping things to ourselves. And
yeah,
I think that's healthy too, but it can kind of put on that not quite realistic view of our lives, no matter how hard we
absolutely.
try to be authentic. But well, thank you so much. I really
Yeah,
enjoyed talking to you and getting to know you more and your story. So thank you so much.
thank you for having me. I feel honored.
Wow, you guys, that conversation. I mean, I just enjoyed talking to her so much, hearing her story about how she met her husband and their love story, and how now they're in Minnesota, which is just kind of a crazy journey, I'm sure, for both of them. And I loved hearing how she balances having a job where she's teaching online as an employee of an online school, but working from home and also juggling a side business, and how she really prioritizes the nooks and crannies of her day to fit that in and still, prioritize family time, prioritize her health, and just get everything done that she needs to do. I will have all of Ashlee's Instagram information and business information in the show notes. Definitely go check out her Instagram. She has a lot of reels on there and just lots of inspirational, motivational advice and posts for moms and women to feel good in their skin and to just make the most of every day. I just absolutely love following her there. You definitely won't regret it. As always, thank you guys so much for listening. I would greatly appreciate if you would join our Work Life Glue Moms Facebook group and find the post for today's episode, and you can go comment over there and show Ashlee some love. If you are interested in getting an interview for the podcast, you can head over to worklifeglue.com/podcast/apply and fill out the form there. And I like to just pick, moms who I think would have interesting insight to share with my audience. So I love talking to you guys and learning more about your stories. Thank you guys so much for listening. Go get something done, go love on your kids, and go live your dreams. I'll talk to you soon.